Hello, beautiful people. It's another brand new day, and I'm super excited that you tuned into my podcast for today. Thank you so much. I'm so delighted. I'm so happy that you tuned in because I know each time you tune into my podcast, you're on your way to becoming a better version of who you are. And that's my commitment to life and my commitment to humanity to ensure that everyone listening to me gets better at what they do. We all have the capacity to grow. We have the capacity to live where we are now to where we want to be. Our present was the future we thought about yesterday. That's to make us understand that if only we can do the right things in our present now, then our future will be glamorous. So don't give up on, irrespective of where you are in life, you can become a better version of who you are. In my previous podcast, I talked about a beautiful topic titled trade off, and I defined trade off as giving up something in exchange for another thing. That means if you really want something, then you must give out something in order for you to be able to what? Get something. A farmer understands this law, and so the farmer will plant a good seed, and that seed dies, and after that seed dies, it springs up into becoming a beautiful plant that we all behold, and that we can eat the fruit and the food it provides. So a student also who wants to make good grades in his or her exams understand the need to study, to work hard in order to what? To be excellent in when results come out. So there is an exchange. We must be willing to engage in trade-off on a daily basis. And whether you like it or not, we are engaging in a trade-off on a daily basis. Because the decisions we make today will determine the future that we'll get. A wise man once said, men don't determine their destinies. He said, men determine their habits, and their habits in turn determine their destinies. So the things we do today determines how our life will turn out. And that's the law of life. Everything you sow is what you will surely reap. And I talked about 3 trade-offs that we must embark on if truly we want to become people of significance and people who really want to change the world and become a better person and leave our names in the sands of time. Number 1, I talked about immediate pleasure for personal growth. We must understand that there is need to give up the satisfaction at the moment in order to be able to get the future reward. In order to get what? The future reward. And I remember I saying in my previous podcast that don't just do what make you happy, but do what make you better. I think that's what you've got. Ensure to write that down. Don't just do what make you happy, but do what makes you better. Because the things sometimes that will make us happy, like watching a movie, it's so beautiful and cool. But when you are doing it, when you are supposed to be doing something else, maybe sowing the right seeds, maybe preparing for an exam, preparing for something else, there's already a distortion. And number 2, I talked about everything for one thing. That you must make up your mind about that one thing you want to be known for. When we mention names like Tiger Woods, our mind goes to golf. When we mention names like Michael Jordan, we remember basketball. When we mention names like Billy Graham, we remember preaching to those who are not saved. He was a Christian who was preaching to unbelievers. And so, every one person who have ever made a mark on the surface of the earth were known for one thing. So discover that one thing and be willing to sacrifice the others. Number 3, I talked about quantity for quality. Giving up not just the number of things you do, but going after things that bring the better result. Not just the quantity of friends you have around you, but the quality of friends that you have. So always give up quantity for quality. And so that leads me to my podcast for today, and it's a beautiful topic titled Maximizing Life's Seasons. A wise man once said, life is in stages and men are in sizes. So every one of us, we are at different stages of our lives. Life has many seasons, but they all pass. Every one of us were at various stages of our lives. When we were born like infants, toddlers, and now we grew from one point to the other. When we were born, we were being fed. We were just we were eating just liquid before we started taking semi-solid food and then solid food. So we grew from one season to another. So life is characterized by seasons. So we must always understand that each and every one of us are at varying seasons in our lives. So, but the mistake we do sometimes is to compare ourselves with others, because why? We have not yet understood the season that we are in. We have not yet understood the season that we are what? That we are in. So every one of us needs to understand the season that we are in if we truly want to make a mark in this life. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, a season is a time characterized by a particular circumstance or feature. It is also a period of the year characterized by or associated with a particular activity or phenomenon. So it's a particular time of this. When we're talking about maximizing life season, I'm talking about maximizing the time that you are at the moment. We are at varying times in our lives. So we must maximize each time that we have. Life constantly is changing in seasons. While some seasons of life drag out, others are quick. And while you may never know exactly how they will last, you can be certain they will change. Seasons change. So irrespective of the season of life that you are in at the moment, I tell you, it will pass away. Seasons do not last forever. And the beauty of life is that there's not only one season of life, of which for those of us in the southern hemisphere, we have the 4 seasons, which is the spring, the summer, the autumn, and the winter. These 4 seasons come with their own uniqueness, and these seasons determine our manner of life. They determine our habits. They determine the food we eat. They determine the clothes we wear, and so many others. So if only we can understand that this earth that we live in is works around seasons, so also our life is in seasons and phases. We should not compare ourselves with others because we are in varying seasons. So the beauty of life is that life has varying seasons. So you can either be in your spring season, or in your summer season, or in your autumn season, or your winter season. Every one of us, we are at varying seasons. And so we should not determine our progress and the growth we are in by the seasons of others. Just like animals, they have their gestation period. The same thing for humans. Humans have a period about 9 months of their gestation period, and so it's determined. So it also for plants, there are some plants that take less than 3 months for them to grow. Some take about 2 years, and some take 3 to 5 years to grow. So just imagine we comparing a maize with an orange tree. You see that it's totally useless. So we should not compare the seasons that we are in with others. Always remember that. While I was preparing for this podcast, I came across a story, and I would like to share. So just listen, and I bet you will surely learn a thing or two. There was a man who had 4 sons. He wanted his sons to learn not to judge things too quickly. He sent them on a quest and wanted them to go and look for a pear tree that was far away. But he sent each of his sons in a different season. The oldest son went in winter. The second went in spring. The third in summer. And the youngest one in autumn. After all of them returned from their quest, Their father gathered them to listen to their experiences. The oldest son told him that the tree was rotten, ugly, and dead. The second son disagreed and said that the tree looked beautiful and fresh with all the green buds. The third son also said it looked stunning with all the blossoms. And the fourth one disagreed with all of his brothers, saying that by the time he reached the tree, it was loaded with sweet and ripe fruits. The man told his sons that they were all right about the tree because they saw it during different stages of its life. We must understand that every one of us, we are at varying stages in our lives. So just like these four sons, they went at various seasons and they saw it differently. The same is true for our lives. We are at varying seasons. We are at varying seasons in our lives. Every one of us, our season is unique. That's why we should never compare ourselves with anyone. If you give up this winter, you will miss the promises of your spring, the beauty of your summer, or the fulfillment from your autumn. Our challenging season will not decide our entire life. Always know that. You may be in a very challenging season in your life, but understand that it cannot determine the rest of your life. And just like other seasons, it will pass away. Always remember that. One day your flowers will blossom too, and you will get back on track. Never allow one difficult season to decide the fate of the rest. But that's what we do sometimes. We tend to allow one difficult season to determine the rest of our lives. But that's wrong. Life is in seasons. Never forget that. A wise man once said, change with the seasons of life. Don't try to stretch a season into a lifetime. I will end today's podcast with the quote of one of the wisest men that ever lived. And he said, there's a right time for everything, and everything on earth will happen at the right time. There's a time to be born and a time to die. There's a time to plant and a time to pull up plants. There's a time to kill and a time to heal. There's a time to destroy and a time to build. There's a time to cry and a time to laugh. There's a time to be sad and a time to dance with joy. There's a time to throw weapons down and a time to pick them up. There's a time to hug someone and a time to stop holding so tightly. There's a time to look for something and a time to consider it lost. There's a time to keep things and a time to throw things away. There's a time to tear cloth and a time to sew it. There's a time to be silent and a time to speak. There's a time to love and a time to hate. There's a time for war and a time for peace. So we are at varying seasons in our lives. And this is a series. In my next podcast, I'll be outlining the importance of the various seasons of life and how we can better maximize each season. I'm talking about the spring, the summer, the autumn, and the winter. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast for today. I remain your host, Andrew Logbo. Thank you very much, and God bless. Do well to like, comment, and share.